Hey everybody, it's John Shutsky here, professor in biological systems engineering, and I would like to welcome you to this class, BSE 308, which is called Career Management for Engineers. So like I said, I'm a professor here in the department, and we're going to talk a little bit about just some of the background in this class, as well as a little bit of introduction about myself. And we'll talk about this in detail. I'm going to switch back and forth between a few views here. So I'll talk about myself. We'll review the syllabus, but let me just say, I really do expect you to dive in and do that syllabus review on your own. It's on Canvas. You all know how to use Canvas now, and I'm sure you probably actually know how to use it a lot better than I do. I'll talk about the expectations for the class, including the weekly expectations for the class, and then also how this class is graded. Let me begin by giving you a quick introduction on myself. I'm a Purdue alumni, so I graduated from what's called the Ag and Biological Engineering Department at Purdue. At that time, it was just the agricultural engineering program. After graduating with my PhD, I spent about 3 years in industry. I worked for the Illinois Farm Bureau Insurance Company in risk management and risk control engineering. And I was there at a time when we were quite aggressive. We bought companies in Washington, Oregon, Nevada, and actually also Alaska. So I got to do quite a bit of traveling in the late 1980s and early 1990s. I then moved, my wife and I moved together to spend about 18 years on the faculty in Minnesota in the Department of Bioproducts and Biosystems Engineering. I came back to Wisconsin in 2008 to become an associate dean and program director for extension and in the College of Agricultural and Life Sciences. And then I came back to my faculty home here in BSE back in 2016. So I think this is the fourth or fifth year that I've been involved in teaching BSE 308. I've got a lot of hobbies. I love music. This would probably be my favorite local musical group here in the Madison area. I'm a big believer in local and regional music. This is, by the way, Dead Horses from Milwaukee and Oshkosh. They play often during normal years at places like the Majestic and the High Noon here in Madison, and also at music festivals around the state and around the Midwest during the summertime. So I love music. My background is, and I'll say my work in BSE generally, is about applying engineering and design principles to reduce risk to both people and also the environment. So just one quick little example of probably the most complicated and difficult project that I ever worked on just a few years ago was a crash involving an anhydrous ammonia tanker being pulled by a semi on a country highway near Minot, North Dakota, as a result of a leak in a fertilizer plant just adjacent to the highway. And it created these whiteout conditions that were highly, highly unusual. The temperature happened to be right at the freezing point, about 32.5 degrees Fahrenheit, heavy fog. It created just the exact set of circumstances that led to whiteout conditions, actually a number of people very seriously injured. And I was charged with coming in and helping to reconstruct that incident. This is the kind of thing that I do in my research as well. So again, one of the most meaningful things I've worked on in the last several years was to investigate a farm worker death up near Stevens Point, Wisconsin, where that farm worker was unloading manure, liquid livestock manure from a feedlot, lagoon, or a storage basin, and was overcome and died in an open air facility as a result of contact with hydrogen sulfide gas. I'm also applying my work and skills in this area of risk reduction and risk management from an engineering perspective, looking at issues of digital technology, smartphones, computers, vehicles, and other types of components, including the applications related to fully autonomous tractors and other types of agricultural machinery and equipment. And as I talk about in the first module, I've got about a 45-minute video that I'll ask you to watch. I do explain this in a bit more detail, some of the directions that we're going, and a little bit on how my work applies in these areas. So let me go back to talking a little bit about the class. So let me say that in BSE 308, we come in with an assumption. And that assumption is that we have absolutely no doubt that if you are a third or fourth year engineering student, that you have incredible skills and capability on all the fun stuff, right? Like math and calculus and physics and statics and heat transfer and thermodynamics. But then the question always comes up, well, like, yeah, but what about the other stuff? What about my money in the future? A lot of you are going to go from maybe having student jobs or summer internships that may or may not be paid. If you're getting paid, you might be making 12 or 13 bucks an hour. And suddenly you find yourself as a new graduate and you're being offered a job for $60,000 or $65,000 a year. Gosh, with benefits, with healthcare coverage and retirement. So we're going to talk about how you will go about making and thinking about and planning for those kinds of decisions. We're also going to talk about resumes, about personal branding, including the use of social media like LinkedIn. We're going to talk about the importance of relationships. We're going to talk about staying up to speed as change happens. And I'll guarantee you, you will encounter many, many totally unforeseen and unpredicted changes in your career and in your life as things progress. And I want you to be prepared as possible. You can't be prepared for everything, but by developing a learning mindset and learning to think and set goals and develop plans, that really can make a difference. And I'll even say, I'm going to talk to you about planning for retirement. For most of you, retirement is probably 40 years down the road. And it seems like it was just yesterday that I was sitting out in the seats that you guys are sitting in, or watching, my professor speak about these sorts of things, and retirement seemed like a far away, like a lifetime away for me. But believe it or not, it'll happen sooner rather than later. The whole notion of this class is that you have to plan. You have to be smart. You have to set goals. As Benjamin Franklin said, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. Those plans are not always going to be scripts for your life, because life is going to change and you're going to have to kind of like adjust with the flow as the flow happens. But the more prepared you are, the more you have a roadmap with your values, with your goals, what you want to accomplish in your life and in your career, the higher the likelihood for success. So as I said, I'm not one of those people. I'm not going to like spoon feed you and walk you through the syllabus, but let me just talk through a few things here. I really do expect for you to read this carefully. And if you have questions, please feel free to come back to me. But I may point you back to the syllabus, or I may answer questions that I just haven't thought about, either here in this video or in the syllabus. First of all, number one, this class is fully asynchronous. It is independent study. I will be opening modules over the course of the semester. Each module, you should plan on spending about 3 hours a week. Some will be a little bit more and some may be a little bit less. But the whole idea of this class in general is, as a 1-credit class, I'm expecting you to put about 45 hours worth of work in. That, by the way, includes the modules, but it also includes the 3 big assignments that I will be talking about here in just a minute. A lot of the videos that I will be presenting to you are with a roster of speakers, and hopefully these will help you to build toward a greater understanding of a career in engineering. I think you're going to enjoy most of these speakers. I think, I've tried to select people who are leaders in their communities, leaders in their professions. I've tried to get diversity in terms of gender, stages in people's careers, and I do think that you will enjoy listening to and learning from and really kind of gleaning life lessons from the speakers who will be in 308. If you want to get a hold of me, you're more than welcome to try to give me a call. If you leave a message on my voicemail message at work, I get pinged on my cell phone and I will get a hold of you. But I will tell you that generally, email works the best. Email is simply my last name, SHUTSKE @wisc.edu. That's my net ID also. So if that helps you at all, you can find me online if you need to, but it's Shutsky @wisc.edu. Because I do get a lot of email, I get a pretty big volume of email, I would ask that you lead with the subject BSE 308, Maybe you got a question about the syllabus. Maybe you got a question about module number 7 or the assignment that's connected to developing a LinkedIn profile and a social media makeover. Just kind of give me a little bit more information so that I can be prepared when I reach back out to you with the correct information. And then the other thing that I'm going to say is I am more than happy to schedule individual Zoom meetings with you or with small groups. And I should have mentioned this up at the top, up at that top bullet, I will be providing at least 3 or 4 opportunities for some live sessions. I plan to do at least one during the daytime and a couple in the evening. If you would like to gather as a traditional class, that will be on Zoom, so you'll need a camera and a microphone. But that will be an opportunity to talk, to share information. If you've got questions, if you've got comments, if you've got concerns, if you simply want to learn more and go a little bit deeper on the things we've talked about, I'm really eager to do that. I would like to make this class as personal as possible, despite it being a fully asynchronous course. So how are you going to be graded? I guess I'll start out by just saying this is a pass, no pass class. For you to get a passing grade, there are a couple of big chunks that I need you to be thinking about. The first one, the most points, 140 points, can be gleaned from participating in the weekly summary discussions. These relate directly to the modules, materials, and the videos that are linked in the modules. These will happen most often through discussions and conversations, and you'll see these in the assignments for the class. They can be one of 3 formats. One might be just a straight post into a discussion forum. Another format, which is a little bit more common, will be a post with comments. Okay, so you guys have had these in your normal classes. You're doing a lot of this. The comments will be graded as part of that particular session, if in fact it specifies so in that particular weekly assignment. I'm also going to have you on a couple of weeks prepare a really short little video. Instead of writing your summary comments, I'm going to ask you to prepare a short video and post that in the discussion. And again, providing opportunities for comments. And I'll probably also do the same thing for audio. Video can be a little bit intimidating, but I would like for you to have the chance to speak in front of your peers using Canvas. I think that will personalize things just a little bit more. And the other thing that I will say is, as we give you feedback, we'll be using a rubric. The rubric is pretty simple. It's pretty basic. If you give these discussion summaries a little bit of thought, and if you've truly participated, you'll get full points. But we'll often kind of come back and provide some audio or some video comments back to you as an individual. I would ask that you pay very close attention to the due dates. These discussion posts are generally due on a Monday at 11:59 p.m. for the initial post. I will not count any initial post that was submitted late. If it's submitted late, 0 points. Once you have submitted, and I would encourage you to do this before Monday at 11:59 p.m., but once you have submitted, you will have an opportunity for providing comments if that assignment requires comments. And those comments will actually be due 2 days after. So you'll post on a Monday night. Let's say you post at 8 p.m. You're very much on time. You can comment on Tuesday or Wednesday. And as long as that initial post was before Monday at 1:59, you'll get the credit that's due. You'll be fully graded according to the rubric without any penalty. But again, if that initial post is late, that 10-point assignment will not be counted. In addition to the discussion summaries, I'm also asking that you complete 3, what I'm just going to call big assignments. They're a little bit bigger than those discussion summaries. And these are indicated pretty clearly in the course syllabus and also in the actual assignments themselves. Number 1 is a resume. We're asking you to put together a high quality resume. I'm not going to say more about that. Number 2 is we're asking you to develop a social media presence. If you've already got something like a LinkedIn, I'll be asking you to make some changes, to do what I'll call a makeover of your LinkedIn presence according to the best practices from LinkedIn and from other sources that I will be providing you as part of that particular module. And the third of the three big assignments is to develop a professional career plan. This is explained in quite a bit more detail. What we're talking about here is about a 6-page paper, and that will be a paper that looks at 2 and 10-year career goals. And I'll also be asking you to apply a number of the principles that will have been discussed in this class. So those are the three big assignments. Let me just say this. All three of the big assignments must be completed for you to get a grade. It doesn't matter how many points you've accumulated. I need to have had you submit the three big assignments. We need to be able to grade those and post the grade. Even if you've accumulated the required number of points, which is 155 points, and you haven't completed one of those three big assignments, you will not get a grade for this class. So please do pay attention to the syllabus. Every year I will have 1 or 2 students who maybe chose to not turn in a resume, or they said, I'm at the end of the semester and I've got enough points, so I'm not going to do the career plan. If I do not have a career plan from you at the end of the semester, you will not receive credit for the class. I hope that that's clear. The last thing I just wanted to do is to make just a few comments here about the information that's at the end of my syllabus. And I have information here about academic integrity. It is really critical to me that you are honest, that you do original work, that if you have any doubts about using other people's work or how you might cite information that's in a publication, that you check in with me. Always err on the side of over-communicating with me when it comes to issues of academic integrity. I will also be working in this class with a number of students who have different types of disabilities. I have worked extensively with farmers with disabilities throughout my career over the last 35 years. And I do have a lot of resources that I can help with, whether it is helping with reading material, perhaps needing a little bit of extra time for assignments, or in many cases, making other types of accommodations. So let me know, please communicate with me, and or have McBurney communicate with me as well. My last comment that I want to make is on this notion of diversity and inclusion. And when I think about diversity and inclusion, I really do take this seriously. My thoughts are these. I do place a real value on diversity and how that relates to the way we think, our ideas, our ability to engage creatively and out-of-the-box thinking, and also constructively challenging me and constructively challenging each other to help us to all do our best work. When I say constructively, when you're doing the course comments for the discussions, I would ask that if you have commentary that you propose that, or that you discuss that in a positive, constructive, rather than a critical way. But again, the idea of that discussion is so that we all can bring ideas to the table and see the way that we all kind of collectively think together in BSE 308. In this class, we have people from a variety of backgrounds, cultures, countries, ethnicities, other orientations, and other viewpoints. And I really, truly believe that creativity happens when we each bring our unique thinking as individuals, and we have an open mind to think, to learn, and to grow through that interaction. So that's just a few minutes here on BSE 308. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you have the time before classes get started, please, please, please go on to Canvas, review the information, re-review the syllabus, get back to me if you have any questions, and I'll be communicating on a weekly basis throughout the class. So we'll have lots of opportunity to interact. And I do promise to make this the very best experience possible for you as a student. Take care, and I look forward to talking to you.